Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new installment of the ME Show. My name is Ali Midawi. I am your strategic partner, and we are live in the ME studios. That's right. We are recording with these two unbelievably amazing human beings who are making an incredible impact. A lot of world changers that you're about to hear from right now. One of them I've met back in 2019, just right before the pandemic, and he was virtually featured in one of the companies that we were working with at the time called the Young Entrepreneur Project. And he was just a bowl of positivity, of love, of excitement, always teaching, and genuinely generous with his knowledge and wisdom. He is a coach. He has created athletes. He's got world records that most people don't even know about, and his stories are phenomenal. Live from Illinois, and bringing that cold right into beautiful, cold New Jersey already. And on the other side, we got another gentleman who I got the privilege to meet just a few months back. And, first and foremost, athlete of all athletes. The man knows how to make it happen. And both of them have come together to create Combat Brain to braintraining.com, which you're going to hear a lot about in this episode. And as I always promise you, I'm going to do everything in my power to get all those golden nuggets that McDonald's is going to have to sue us for the information that I'm going to get you. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, give a whole lot of virtual love, if you're not driving, to Coach Papa, as I know him, a.k.a. Mr. Tim, and of course, the one and only John Kennedy. Let's go. What's up, fellas?
Hey, here we are.
There we are.
Amazing day to be alive.
Great intro.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I look, I don't say this lightly, but you promised you're gonna pay for lunch, so I had to do my very, very best so I can look good. But do me a favor, gentlemen, and we'll start with Coach. Tell us a little bit about how you even began this journey. And I know we can talk about so many elements of it, but give us a little bit of the highlights that your background for those who may be hiding under a rock and know nothing about your greatness. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Ali, I grew up on a farm in western Nebraska, a small town. How small was it? I graduated fifth in my high school class. I didn't make the top 30%. I joined the United States Army right out of high school after setting a couple of state records in track and football. And I met my wife on active duty. She was a medic. I was a military policeman. She drugged me, and I woke up in Illinois one day. On April 11th, we'll celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary. We have 12 children. We have 3 children. We have 12 grandchildren, and we just had our first great grandchild. Little Bennett has blessed us with his presence.
God
My
bless.
career, 21-year military career between active duty, Guard, and Reserve. Retired as a captain in 1998. 25 years in industrial management. I was, for many of those years, a plant manager, smashing production records by treating people like people. 2008, I published my first novel. I published a book of poetry back in the 90s. I've been doing a lot of writing and just encouraging. In 2012, I left industry and financial management to become a life and business coach, as well as an athletic coach for over 45 years, where I've coached over 5,000 athletes. I took all those skills from the plant management, from the military leadership, from a lifetime of coaching, and put them into a life and business coaching career where I help people just become the best version of themselves. I've helped many people double, triple, and quadruple their income ability just by being true to themselves and stop trying to live in a superficial world. John and I met, and we'll go more into this story, in 2018 when he was a guest on a radio show I had. And, I'll share that story a little bit later. But I want to really hear a little bit about John and how he got here.
John, good luck following that. I mean,
I know that's pretty tough, right?
We got military, family, author, coach, business coach. I mean, have fun.
Well, thank you. Well, I think, challenges, right? Going back to a young age, I was always trying to solve problems. That was kind of what I was good at. Of course, I create a lot of problems to solve, right? But as we go through our life, but I was up until the time I did the brain training, I was not in that field. I was actually a process and project rescue specialist. for big companies. So I did a lot of projects for the C-level of big companies, Aon, Motorola, and they have problems. They bring me in as a troubleshooter. And I developed some ways to really improve processing to make things more efficient. And I love doing that. But then my life changed in 2006 when my brother David came back from Iraq. He was in the Army, and said IEDs, improvised explosive devices, those are the booby traps that kill so many of our guys. He said, we need help. So I thought, wow, maybe a chance to help save lives instead of just helping businesses make more money. So I did a lot of research, got invited to an event the Marines held every year, and got the attention of General Doug Stone, who was a base commander. And I had kind of one of these God winks, you know, you get these intuitive moments as I was shaking hands with him on the last day. And I thought, what if I could do for the brain what I do for businesses? What if I could make the brain more efficient? Maybe we could improve intuition as well as all the other tremendous pressures that these young Marines had to go through. And he helped me get my first contract. And to really be successful, I created a whole new field in neuroscience called applied neuroplasticity. So we start with the process work for the brain. We identify very specific processes in the brain we need to improve. And fortunately, at that time, research came out of MIT that found that our brains will change immediately with a very specific type of stimulation, and then an agile approach for continuous improvement. The wonderful part about this, again, our first experiment, we didn't know it was going to work at all. But what we realized was not only were we helping active duty Marines go into combat, right, to prevent casualties, the program was also tremendously successful at accelerating recovery from brain trauma, from the wounds of war, we call them, right? Post-traumatic stress, concussions, anxiety, depression. And any group that was going into combat typically had a mix of guys with different issues. And so amazing results. From then, it got kind of spread. So Navy SEALs, snipers, pilots, and then in the civilian world, we help a lot of different people. We'll get more into detail about that. I've been very fortunate to have met Tim because he's become the #1 trainer to help with this. And one of the areas we do a lot of work with are athletes, since high-performing athletes is kind of that same environment as a military. So that's how we got to where we are now. It's been a great journey.
Well, I am not going to argue on who's better in this room. You guys, like, see you later. I am no longer relevant in this world. I mean, I'm taking a whole lot of notes in here. And first and foremost, thank you both for the impact that you've created for so many individuals. And, you know, Rich, my business partner in here and our chief production officer, he's a veteran himself. My brother, who served 3 times in Afghanistan and deals with a whole lot of PTSD, just easy anger issues. I mean, you know, he will get so triggered with thank you for your service. He thinks like, oh, you're saying it just like you're saying happy holidays. You don't really mean it or understand or appreciate it. So things like that he's still going through. So and it impacts the whole family and everybody around. And to hear all the things that you both have done and the lives of people that you are touching. So I would be safe to say that the military kind of connection and the core values from that family to helping and assisting individuals kind of brought you two together to kind of figure out how to put a project together. Is that something that you would say, John, that kind of connected the both of you?
Well, Tim will tell you how we met. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I want to hear that story. Give us the goodies, because you're laughing and I want to catch that story.
I had a radio show with my partner, Kent Jones. We were called Two Bald Guys and a Microphone.
Two bald guys in a microphone. I remember the show.
Right. And we had, we'd bring in guests and, you know, at 5 a.m. So a guest to come out at 5 a.m. So John came all the way out to Harvard from Evanston at 5 o'clock in the morning to be on our show. And I connected right away. Combat brain training. This is great. You know, reduced casualty, recovery from traumatic brain injury, PTSD. This is great. But that show got over and the next guest came in and, I kind of said, I got to get together with this guy sometime. 2 years later, that was in 2018. 2 years later, I'm the head soccer coach at Wilmot High School. It's the pandemic year. I can't be on the field with my girls, but I can be on Zoom. And so I would try to bring in individuals to entertain, to educate, to do something. I remember John, traumatic brain injury, peak performance athletes. This is perfect. Got a hold of John. He came on a Zoom, took us through the training. He brought, we put the arrows up on the screen, and we loved it. And as long as we were on Zoom, we kept going through those arrows every single session. But then one day they let me get back on the soccer field. When you've done something for 40 years, you have a tendency to go back the way you've done it for 40 years. And the arrows kind of got tucked away. We'd do them a little bit, but not nearly the way we should have, because my focus was kind of out of kilter. Fast forward a little bit farther, and I was coming home. This is 2022 now, another 2 years. I'm coming home from a retreat with our church with a guy named Brian. Brian gets in the car and he says, Tim, I have to apologize to you. And I'm like, I just met you. What are you apologizing for? He said, I've had 6 brain surgeries. I've got short-term memory loss. I will repeat myself during this trip. I said, you already said that. He looked at me like, well, then he's like, you're that guy. And I said, yeah, well, let's have some fun, but tell me more. He has hydroencephalitis. He has to have shunts put in his brain to relieve the fluid pressure out of his brain. During one of those operations, he suffered a slight stroke that left him with severe short-term memory loss. I called John up again, 2018, 2020, now it's 2022. I called John up. I'm like, John, would these help? He goes, they're colored arrows on a sheet of paper. They can't hurt. He sent me the exercises, the arrows, and in 3 sessions, Brian regained more of his short-term memory than 5 years of medical therapy. And now I'm thinking I'm the dummy because I've been introduced to this 3 times, and what did I miss? I called John up and I'm like, what did I miss here? And he goes, I've been trying to tell you, right? And so we talked a little bit, and I'm like, I need to be certified. I had 12 active coaching clients at that time, and this would be great for each of them and for me and my family. How much is it going to cost for me to get certified? And he gave me a number that was like cha-ching, and I was like, oh, I got to figure this out. How can I pay this? But I'm a farm boy, right? We barter for everything. If I have to mow his lawn every week for 3 years to pay for this, I'm going to figure out a way to pay for it. We set a meeting for the next Tuesday to figure this out. But on Sunday, I got a text from him. I'll never forget it. It said, Tim, this is John, and I have kind of a strange question. Are you vaccinated? And I texted him back, and I said, well, yes, I work with high school students. I have to be. He says, great. He says, I have a speaking engagement in Toronto, but Canada won't let me cross the border because I don't have a vaccination card. Will you take it? I'm like, yeah, John, but you got to certify me. I can't go up there with just what he gave me to teach Brian. Now, I felt a little bit like Tom Sawyer because John certified me for free at this time, and I got paid for the speaking engagement.
That's a double winner there, buddy.
Double winner. While I was up there, I had 37 women in this class, all executive assistants to CEOs, COOs, and the Canadian Department of Defense. And I'm witnessing their brains changing right in front of me with what John has taught me. Now, this is my first time in a group environment, and I'm taking videos and I'm sending to John. I'm like, John, you won't believe this. Now, remember, he started this in 2006. This is 16 years later. He has witnessed this hundreds, if not thousands of times. And here I'm the new kid on the block going, you won't believe this. He goes, of course I'll believe it. I developed this. I've trained it. I've trained thousands of people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Well, I got back from Canada. I got a hold of John. I'm like, John, how many people do you have certified to do this training and doing the training right now? And he goes, counting you and me? I go, yeah. He's like, 2. But there's a few more, but the bottom line is I talked to him about a train the trainer program. We could go out and we could train others to train others. We can have the impact this deserves and at the same time create a residual income stream for it. And so we started building a train the trainer program. When I found out I needed a quadruple bypass, I'm like, John, I'm going to have to back off for a while. And he goes, I understand. Take care of your health. Coming out of the bypass, we got back on track about June of 2023, July of 2023, and things start moving forward. When I needed to have my right knee replaced, and then I needed to have my left knee replaced. And we kept having just these challenges. But over all of it, I've had the opportunity to train now. I'm up in the hundreds of people I've trained. John's well into the thousands, if not over 10,000 people he's trained. And every single person we train has a positive impact from this program. And it is, it is by far, Ollie, the most amazing program I've ever run into. I was training a group of volleyball girls from Warren Township High School. And I asked them, what have you noticed any different? And well, my reaction time, and they all talked the sports side, but one little girl came up to me and she said, I was diagnosed with severe anxiety in 8th grade. I've been medicated and seeing counselors ever since. After the 5 sessions I did with the volleyball program, her anxiety is gone and she's off all medications. And just little tiny successes like this, I keep running into over and over again. And I thank God that He brought John and I together, because this has been the most incredible opportunity I have. You mentioned changing the world. This truly has the ability and the process to change the world, to change the way the world thinks, to change the way everything is going on. And just what a blessing. The 2 guys I'm in this room with are 2 of the guys that have had such a big impact. I'm just glad to be part of it.
That's amazing, John. I got to come back to you. Was there how did this whole thing come about? I mean, in other words, did you have somebody who mentored you into your knowledge, or was it just life and experience and you're documenting the process? After the break, obviously, we're going to dive really, really deep into the model itself. But I'm curious, I had a lot of mentors who showed me what to do, and a lot of bad mentors who absolutely showed me what to not do just by watching them from a distance.
Right.
What is your story in terms of, becoming who you are today in the business community?
I think that's a great question, because I've had many mentors through my life. Including my dad, who, you put your mind to something, you can do it. But again, my background was always solving problems. And I was really good at it. And I always looked for new problems. And this was the ultimate, right? Can we save lives in a way that no one else had? And so when everything fit together, and our first experiment was incredible. I can go into more details in the next session if you want more details how that worked. But what I realized was the key to our performance, no matter where we are on the performance spectrum, is our brains and how well it processes information. So if you think about it, your highest performing athlete or Navy SEAL or anyone, executive CEO, the difference between them and then the next level up is how fast they can process information, right? Because if you process more, you get that edge. And we're improving eye, brain, hand, and feet coordination and processing speed.
We call it buying speed when you shrink that distance of learning.
Exactly. And it's interesting right now. That's the new frontier with athletes, right? And we're kind of ahead of the game, but they've done almost as much as they can physically, as much as they can mentally. There's a lot of good, mental toughness type programs, but that's dealing with the mind. We're physically changing the brain itself. And what's interesting is almost every debilitation, from autism to ADHD to strokes to dementia, a symptom is poor processing. We've actually mapped out, because every time we meet with a client, we actually measure their processing speed. And as that processing speed gets faster, in a very short amount of time, their performance improves, whether it's, again, a pro athlete or someone with, like as Tim mentioned, anxiety, depression, strokes. That also improves very, very quickly. And that's what's so rewarding about this, is seeing those changes in people's lives. We've had people that, they've tried everything possible in the medical community and they've gotten better.
I do have to ask, it's got to be annoying when you see the social media gurus out there who are every single day just saying any rubbish just to tickle the algorithms, and you're like, what are you talking about, right? So again, before we hop on a quick commercial break, please help me out here. How do you or can you please help us out here? Don't listen to the noise, because it seems that every single time I am on social media, it's like one person is confusing the next, one person is confusing the next, or one person is contradicting the next. Some of them, like there's this guy who literally, I tell my wife, I'm like, you got to stop sending me this guy's content. He was talking about for like a whole campaign how salt is terrible. And now all of his stuff is like, salt is the greatest sense of minerals. Like, dude, Dude, you like I send him his own videos. I'm like, I hope you see your fan messages because you're contradicting. All right, help me out, please. I feel like I'm going on a rant.
Well, if I could on this, one of the
Yeah,
things,
please.
Lee, that we do when we're in a group of kids, and I'm training right now 400 volleyball players from a volleyball club in Barrington, Libertyville, and Crystal Lake, the Sky High Volleyball Club. And they're all reading these arrows out loud. And I'll look down and some of the girls have their fingers in their ears. And we're like, no, 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 we want the noise. Because learning to focus through the noise is an important outcome of this training. And that's exactly what you're talking about, learning to shut out the noise. What is just noise? And the ability with the processing speed that John had talked about to understand what's out there and to discern what is real and what is fake is much quicker, and shut out the noise, this discernment, and we're locked into what is real. And so that was one of the big outcomes of the training that we do.
And it's interesting along those lines, is you said all this noise out there, right? It's like almost every program to improve focus says remove distractions. But that's not the world we live in. We're surrounded by distractions. So we train everybody to be focused, as Tim said, in distractions. And it's the same thing. We'll more about this later, but we also have a way to change habits. You know, there's so many books out there about habits, and they're about habits. Do this. This is how the brain works. We have a program based on the same applied neuroplasticity, basically, as a brain training program. We can help, and I've done this with clients that Tim has. We can help anybody change any habit in their life in less than 30 minutes, not 30 days or 6 weeks. But there's so much noise out there. Not that that's not good information, but as you said, it changes all the time, and it's really hard to understand what's really true.
Well, I can't wait to dive right in. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. And after we come back, and for those of you who are not driving, please make sure you visit the website that you're seeing in your screen or in the copy of the captions. And of course, you definitely want to connect with these gentlemen because this is just their background. Wait until after the break. We're going to get into the nitty gritty, the meat potato. We're going to get into the cookies. So you better be ready. Santa Claus is here. We'll be right back.
Your brain is your most powerful tool. Combat Brain Training is a revolutionary system designed to sharpen your focus, enhance memory, and boost mental agility for everyone in the family. Using cutting-edge neuroplasticity techniques, our program rewires your brain. Whether you're a student, a professional, or simply want to think faster and perform better, Combat Brain Training gives you the edge. Whether you're in the military, an athlete, a business leader, or simply want to think faster and perform better, unlock your brain power. Join now and bring out the best in your family. Visit combatbraintraining.com and start today.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Yes, sexy beast. Are you not entertained? I am so excited to have these two unbelievably amazing and documented gentlemen on the show. I got to say, Coach Papa, I call him Coach Papa because that's how he was introduced to me. Tim Stewart, your story is always fascinating. And, we could literally go for days about your stories, but I want to get into the conversation here today. So let me start with you, John, and I'm going to come back to you.
Sure.
Coach. Who is this program, Combat Brain Training? Who is it for?
Well, and that's an excellent question, right? Because everything everyone does, it goes through our brain, literally anyone. But that's hard for sometimes people to get their hands around that. But typically, really, anyone with a brain. Now, we also, though, and so one of the things we're working on is how to help more people, right? So we have a video series, we have different series, we have coaches, we have certifications, because our goal is to change the world. I mean, if everybody were performing better mentally, better focus, faster thinking, better learning, better leadership, less stress, it could change the world. So literally everyone. But we also customize it for specific markets. So we have very specific exercises for high-performing athletes, for example, or CEOs, or people with strokes. We've been having ADHD. We help tremendously quickly with kids, but we've also started to work with some autistic kids, and it's helping them as well. So it's basically for everyone, but we customize the delivery and the actual exercises depending on what their needs are, help them
Gotcha.
achieve their goals.
I'm curious as to, there's usually like Jim Rohn says, out of all 100 people, there's always one bad one. For that one bad person on the comments right now is like, oh, this is all fake, this is hoax, this is that. Do we in the program advise to still consult with an MD, or are these alternative options, or they go along with, like, how do we help individuals that you just mentioned?
Well, Ellie, if I could address that for 1 second.
Please.
Number one, John has trained closing in on well over 10,000 people.
God
With
bless.
never a negative comment posted. Every
Wow.
single person who gets involved in this walks away a little bit better. Now, quite often I'll be in front of a group of athletes, these volleyball players. I'll be like, what have you noticed since we've started the training? And they'll be like, I say, you know why? Because your brain has entered a new normal.
Yeah.
If we take you into this training and we increase the processing speed, your brain automatically assumes it's always been acting like this. And while those from the outside, the coaches and the other people, the parents we talk to, they notice this, that, and the other thing, the person themselves who've gone through the training doesn't really notice a lot, because unless they're keeping good journal and good notes, they've entered into a new normal. This is the way it's always been. And the brain is very resilient like that. And John, you're laughing because I know that we talked about this a lot. So go ahead and feed off.
Well, just oftentimes the notice comes from someone else, right? So one of my favorite stories, I worked with a financial advisor who was very stressed, very overwhelmed, and he just got a promotion. And so he was going to start that on a Monday. And so I did my first session with him on Friday. And I expected to get an email the following week that work was going better. It's true, right? Because a lot of stress will help him get done better with less time. But he sent me an email Monday morning. It was, John, you're not going to believe what happened. I ran through your exercise because there's always practice to do. It's only a few minutes a day. Ran through your exercises Saturday morning. I got more done around the house by noon than normally would all weekend. And my wife now says when she speaks to me, I'm focused on her. You've already made my home life great. I can't wait to get to work. Right? So she noticed the difference. And sometimes I use the example, I call it a computer model. So we all work with computers and we have different applications. We have this, StreamYard, we have browser, we have games, we have business software. And you can upgrade each one of those, right? But it doesn't necessarily impact everything else. And the way our brains work is the more that you repeat something, the deeper the rut. So athlete, for example, right? If they want to be a better pitcher, they throw 10,000 pitches, right? And we call it muscle memory, but it's really the brain that's remembering, and it tends to be isolated. Now, the mental work, psychology, mindfulness, all this also can be powerful. It's like the operating system of the brain. But the best way to understand what we do is we like to get a new computer because everything works better, right? Because the processor is faster. Every application and the operating system, which emotional and psychological benefits to this program are incredible. Some of the stories we could share with you, as well as everything else. So that's what we're doing. We're putting a new processor in your brain, and you'll notice the results almost in any area of your life, even areas you weren't looking for, like this financial analyst did.
I was gonna say just the fact that you've mentioned that you could have a whole campaign just for wives. If you can tell,
Yes.
ladies, do you want your husband to focus and pay attention when you're talking?
Yes. I'm gonna take this.
That's it. Just put a call to action after that, and or it could be even a tagline. Combat
Right.
brain training. We are so good. Your husband will pay attention to you.
Right.
John had a young man referred to him by a psychologist with severe ADHD. This young man had never been in a mainline classroom. When it came to him, he said, "Well, let's train the whole family. That way the young man isn't isolated out." After just 6 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks, he was introduced into the mainline classroom for the first time in his scholastic career, and at the end of that semester was selected as student of the month. But more importantly, mom, who was in sales, her sales numbers jumped by 30%. And dad, who was a project manager, his projects started coming in under budget time and money for the first time in his career. And sister's ACT score jumped by 7 points. We tease about it, but we all heard about this back in the late 40s. I could while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain. My head I'd be scratching as my thoughts are busy hatching if I only had a brain. We all have a brain.
They're just going to throw in there, Tim. The nice thing is that they had a family activity they could do, so they would do it together, like at dinner time. So now they have a reason to come together, and they all can support each other. So yes, we do work with families. It's a lot of fun.
Well, one of the things, if I may ask, that you've mentioned earlier, and I have it in my notes in here, measuring processing speed like a computer.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, it may be proprietary information, and you can say absolutely not, but how?
No, so it's a good question. So it's interesting. So we talk about the arrow sheets, right? By design, this is the simplest program anyone has ever seen before, right? The first engagement was for the Marine Corps, but my daughter was 5 at the time, and we wanted her to be able to do this as well. So that's why we can work with kids as young as 5 and 6. Now, the reason we use that symbol is it's so simple a child can do, but it's like when you go to the gym and there's dumbbells around, right? It's just a hunk of metal. You say, how can a hunk of metal make me stronger? Well, it's how you use it, right? It's how the trainer focuses on using those weights for the different parts of your body to get stronger. And it's the same thing with this. Most people look at this sheet and they don't get it, but it's really kind of funny because in as little as 25 to 30 minutes, they're already measurably processing faster. And by the end of the first set, by 45 minutes, they're doing things there's no way they could have thought in the beginning. And the way we are measure processing is we use a stopwatch. Now, there's a lot of speed of processing type metrics out there, usually on a screen, right? Now, the reason our program is not on a screen is because when we engage all parts of the brain works much harder and changes faster. So we're really measuring the entire throughput of information through the brain when we take the speed of processing measurement. And as I said before, a direct correlation between that speed and the real world performance. Again, it's not like, one of the people ask us all the time, is it like Lumosity or Cogmet or any of those digital programs? The problem with those digital programs is just a tiny screen and you're using your eyes. And you always get better at the scores because you're practicing that specific thing. But there's minimal, neuroscientists have complained about them for a long time. There's minimal real world transfer. But with ours, it's all based on real world transfer. So that's one of the reasons why we enjoy it so much.
Fascinating. I feel like I should call you the magician from now on because that was unbelievably amazing. Let's talk about and Coach. I think this probably with or without the certification, living through the noise or removing the noise or removing the distractions. Like, I'd love to know. Again, if you can. And like I said, if it's proprietary and, we can say next question, please. That's 007 secured information. How do you teach the individual to kind of like make it through that noise? Because look, in our world, it's loud, it's noisy. It's always being thrown at emails, messages, and everything really. So how do we do it?
Well, a number of years ago, I met a basketball coach who had several state championship teams. And I talked to him about, what was he thought the biggest part. Well, he didn't practice right after school. He practiced at 7 o'clock at night. And when he practiced at 7 o'clock at night, he cranked the sound system on in the gym so that they could barely speak. Because most coaches are practicing when there's no noise in the gym, and yet they're expected to perform when there's all of this ambient noise going on. But he took that reverse role and he says, I want them to learn to perform in the midst of the noise at 7 o'clock at night, not 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Translate that into what we do. When we're in a group everybody's reading this sheet of arrows, and one person would sound like right, left, down, up, right down. But imagine 35 people in that same room saying this, the different direction the arrows are pointing at different speeds. One of the things I've noticed that quite often women from the age of 25 to 45 really struggle with this. And the reason is they're mothers, and mothers have to be trained to hear everything in the room. So they're very easily distracted by what everybody else is saying. And it takes them a little while longer to gain the focus through the noise. Men, on the other hand, are used to watching a football game while the kids are running through the house and the wife is talking, and they can still tell you every play that's happened right in front of them because they've been able to focus through the noise. With our training, we bring everybody to that point. Now, even if I'm only training one person, I will try to get other things happening in the room, other noises, so that they have to really focus on what they're doing. Because the ability to focus on the task at hand is one of the things that has really hampered our ability to succeed today, because we give in to the squirrel, we give in to all the noises and all the distractions that are around us, but this trains the brain to let those go and stay focused on what is at hand.
Well, and that reminds me, one of my favorite testimonials was this guy said, "I love this program. I can listen to my wife and watch the football game at the same time." But one of the things that this is based on is just our brains will do what we ask it to do, right? And so when they go through these exercises, all the brain is doing, well, there's a massive amount of work. It's like a lot of the consulting work, right? There's a massive amount of process identification, and we got endorphins and dopamine and oxytocin and brain connections and long-term potentiation. We have all this massive amount of work that's happening by just doing this very, very simple exercise. And we're not even aware of it, but the brain is working hard to do what we ask it to do. And in order to get its reward of being correct, it has to focus. And so we never tell people to focus, but they naturally will be able to focus because the brain has to focus to accomplish its goal. And that's the beauty of it is, it's one sheet of paper, right? When I first started with the Marines, it was much longer, one sheet of paper. And it's kind of cool because as people go through the exercises, they start consciously thinking about it. Then they let themselves go a little bit, and then they actually get into flow. So there's a whole bunch of flow programs out there. You can spend thousands and thousands of dollars on these programs that are basically psychology based to help your flow. I work with someone who actually went through one of those, and then in about 25 minutes with this, she said, "Oh my goodness, I'm in flow." So that's when your brain is making we've been in the zone, right? You're not thinking about what you're doing, it's doing it great. And so people will start to experience that by the time they get to the end of the page. And then that encourages them to keep going. And that's why they keep going harder, and it goes harder and harder. And it becomes easier and easier as the brain changes physically to be able to handle the load. Now, the other thing I should mention real quickly is the way our brain works. Our brains will always change where it works the hardest. So everybody has a different makeup of cognitive skills where they're stronger and weaker. Wherever they're weakest, the brain will change the fastest because it's trying to do what we ask it to do. And the other beauty of this is our brains will rewire around damage. This is why it's so helpful for like strokes and Alzheimer's and concussions. Our brain will rewire on it. We don't try to fix anything. We just train the brain to do what it needs to do. And the brain gets its reward by doing that. And that's why the changes happen so fast.
So we're not even talking about just mental behavior or mindset or neuron behavior. We're talking about also physical change.
Physical. Yeah.
That's fascinating. And I appreciate you bringing light to this because, whenever, I'm educated on certain areas about like how to create real change. And when we talk about it, the world sees us as the woo-woos of the world, right? Like you're talking crazy, but there's a science to what you do. It's not just, snap and things happen. It's not a hypnosis process. But there's a process that makes the brain, or it takes to understand how the brain functions to get the body to listen and operates with it. That's
psychology has told us for years that the individual gravitates towards the norm of the group. If the group is operating at this speed, those who are faster slow down a little bit to get to the norm, And those who are slower speed up a little bit, but eventually the norm of the group takes over. What I have found in this training is the norm of the group moves towards the fastest. So as they're going through the training, they're not, we're moving the norm. We're switching the norm. I'm training the McHenry County girls women's basketball team. Their season actually just ended, but they had a great season this year. And during one of our training sessions, I threw something at them that was just incredibly challenging and chaotic, and they felt that they didn't accomplish anything. But by the end of the night, when they first started training 2 months earlier, the range of processing speed went from 56 seconds to 1 minute and 56 seconds. That doesn't mean much to you right now, but we can explain that later. But at the end of that night, the range was from 32 seconds to 35 seconds. So they went from a range of over 1 minute separating the fastest to slowest processing to 3 seconds. What that means as a team is they're all now processing the game at the same speed. And as they're processing the game at the same speed, they're all understanding what decisions are being made, what actions need to be taken, and they flow through the game as a team, not just a bunch of really talented individuals.
Absolutely, and I don't care if it's sports or leadership or military or even family decisions. It is usually the wise decisions fast that make us in the right place. If that's amazing. Well, look, we're gonna take another quick break. Please make sure that you are visiting combatbraintraining.com. I'm sure you love that video that you watched earlier. I'm gonna let you check it out one more time. If you're driving, do not touch that cell phone. I care about you alive than I care about you educated. So please do not touch that cell phone. It's fascinating. Every time I say that, the number one killer, do you know there's more killing with a cell phone in the hand while driving than it is with a DUI? So please, I'm trying to do my part. Do not touch that cell phone. I need you to be around for your families. But when you are not driving, definitely go to the captions. Make sure that you click and connect with John and Tim, aka Coach Papa. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll be right back.
Your brain is your most powerful tool. Combat Brain Training is a revolutionary system designed to sharpen your focus, enhance memory, and boost mental agility for everyone in the family. Using cutting-edge neuroplasticity techniques, our program rewires your brain. Whether you're a student, a professional, or simply want to think faster and perform better, Combat Brain Training gives you the edge. Whether you're in the military, an athlete, a business leader, or simply want to think faster and perform better, unlock your brain power. Join now and bring out the best in your family. Visit combatbraintraining.com and start today.
In many cases, when people hear information like this, the brain goes into the too good to be true, or there is no way, or it's too wild and too woo-woo for me. But let me remind you that back in the day, many people said there is no way that a human can be floating in the air. And today, there are machineries that are 500 tons in a tube with wings, and it floats in the air. As a matter of fact, it is so fascinating that we today watch TV in those floating machineries, that today we have a full meal, that we go from day to night and we speed into the future or we delay the past. So please, before you say too good to be true, just appreciate God's greatness. And only the educated, only he or she who has the information will take advantage. So please get educated. Understand that this is obviously for education and a little bit of entertainment purposes, but make sure that you connect with combatbraintraining.com. Get educated, get the facts, and allow them to help and advise you to the best of their abilities for this information. All right, gentlemen, let's talk about the future while we're talking about the creation and all the amazing things that the body can do and essentially heal itself if we know how to operate within it. John, when we talk about PTSD, when we talk about the horrific things that our military men and women go through and continue to live with after combat, after serving their countries, do you see in the future that these things are going to be not only controlled but eliminated with what you do?
Well, we've had tremendous success, not just with vets, but also I did some programs for some ministries in inner city Chicago. And those kids suffer from PTSD as well, right? Live in very traumatic environments. And what we found is that this program, it doesn't go to the root of the trauma. There's people that do that. What it does, though, is it trains the brain to avoid the triggers, right? So when you're processing smoothly and focused, the triggers don't affect you anymore. I had one Navy SEAL I worked with in San Diego. He came up, I worked with his team, his EOD team, for a week. And at the end, he came up to me almost in tears. He said, "You saved my life." He said, "I know that I was struggling with PTSD. I've deployed several times. I got triggered all the time. My anger was tearing my unit apart." He says, "Now it's all gone. And we are getting along better than we ever have before. You've reinforced the cohesiveness of our unit while helping me overcome my problems." So that's how we help in that area for sure. Now, one of the things, Joy, just because you mentioned God, I want to just throw this in there. One of the things about this is that it's very holistic, right? So we, especially in a group with a person, because everybody has a different weaknesses and strengths in their cognitive skills and processing, and their emotional, we've helped some people with emotional trauma. This is a very holistic program. And I remember a neuroscientist at Northwestern. So several neuroscientists have helped me with the research on this. I put them through it and say, "Okay, tell me what's happening," because I'm not a neuroscientist. And they come up with great feedback. And this one from Northwestern said that this could never have come from traditional research because that is reductionist in nature. In other words, traditional research, they try to find one factor and they build all these tests and so forth. And eventually, hopefully, they'll come up with something useful. She said, this targets the brain in so many areas. It's so holistic. You're actually getting people into flow state. And then she said, this must have come from God. So I said, okay, I'll take that as an endorsement.
Right? I love, first and foremost, we all want to serve somehow, some way. And God bless you for finding your own call and your own purpose to serve in your own way, because 10,000 people, goodness gracious, that's amazing. Coach Papa, let me ask you, in the world that we are living in right now, with the social media noise and with just a whole different generation, where finally the idea of mental health is accepted, is not a stigma anymore, what do you anticipate in the future with the combat brain training system and process in terms of the overall, just I want to say, like, removing all of these diseases and helping the masses? But what do you envision in the future of CBT, if I may call it that?
Well, let me go a couple of different directions. Recently, I was referred to a lady who was diagnosed as borderline schizophrenic. Whatever that means, I'm not the doctor. I don't know. I know what schizophrenia is. But over the course of about 4 weeks, her doctors could understand how she had normalized so quickly without additional medication. John had kind of addressed this in earlier when it says the brain has a tendency to rewire around the injured parts. A lot of times when you're talking about things like ADHD or other diseases that have been given the mental illness stigma, it comes from I think a misunderstanding that the brain is just not like firing on all cylinders. Well, the combat brain training, first of all, it's creating new neural pathways. Neurogenesis, the creation of new neurons and neural pathways, happens until our last breath. So individuals with dementia, individuals who are beginning Alzheimer's disease, individuals with Parkinson's and MS and other neurological disorders, the ability is here to rewire around those injured parts, those injured places, and to recreate a healthier brain. A lot of people say, "Oh yeah, we do a lot of stuff with the mindset and this. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me." That has nothing to do with us. That's good stuff. We are personal trainers for the brain. We are the Arnold Schwarzeneggers taking you and training you how to strengthen that brain. We bring in the entire body. Part of our training includes, early training includes tapping our fingers on a tabletop or on our shoulders or something, so that the left side of the brain controlled by or the left side of the body controlled by the right brain, right side of the body controlled by the left brain. We're increasing that flow of communication between the left and right hemispheres, where all of our decisions are made emotionally justified logically. If that information flow is happening quicker through the cortex, well, those decisions are made quicker. And as you alluded to earlier, a quicker decision is carried out with more confidence. So if the brain is processing quicker, if we're discerning these decisions faster, then we're living life with more confidence, and we're not getting caught up in all these, these fake news items that are coming out. We realize that Marilyn Monroe did not cause all of the problems in North Korea, right? And it's just like it's.
I'm glad you cleared that out for us. We were wondering still.
Many years ago, I heard, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Over everything, yeah.
And I think a lot of times when our brain is so mired in conflict and loaded with so much cortisol that we just want something we can believe in, and we'll follow anything, right? We don't take the time to really, is this true? Is this real? Is this good? Is this right? We don't discern those things to say, is this fun? Let's go. And, this training, combat brain training, really does have the ability to change the world. And we're looking for people who want to get on the brain train with us.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I totally see it. And how can people get involved or share the message? Or, I mean, I know obviously your website has everything a person needs, but what can we do to assist, to let the world know about this process?
Just push it out there.
Yeah. One of the things we want to provide to people is hope, right? So many people we work with have given up on any traditional medicine. In fact, we kind of have a saying where we only work with uncomfortable people. So the people are fine, they're comfortable, they're happy. That's fine. Bless you and keep going, right? But it's the people on the other end of the spectrum. You have a salesperson who can't sell. You've got a professional athlete who wants to extend his career. You've got, kids who want to succeed. They want to do better to get a college, scholarship. At the other end of the spectrum, anyone from autism to strokes to dementia now, I mean, those people are struggling because they want to get their lives back. And we can help people at both ends of those spectrums if they're motivated to want to really to make that happen. And then there is a contact us form on the website. They can get a hold of us through this. We do have it's kind of an introductory course because we want to help as many people as possible. I actually developed that in conjunction with Southern Utah University. So they had me go up there. I worked with the gymnastics team that won their first ever conference championship. We did work with the disabilities groups, but they wanted a video series to help the students. So now it's available to buy on our website for people to get a start. That will last them a lot. But then if they want to work with a coach, a brain coach, they can upgrade to that as well.
Well, it's like I say, Alan, we're your new head coaches.
Yeah, head coaches, right?
I love that.
So we're going to become your head coach, or I use get on the brain train all the time. But there's so much conflict going on in the world, and we're so confused today. Just even the foundational training will help someone get back up and normalize their life a little bit. But we provide that edge. A lot of news around that big tight end from Kansas City. Is he going to retire? Is he not going to retire? Does he have one more year? Well, if he does have one more year and he reaches out to us, we could make that the best year of his career by just turning on the brain to make him a little bit wiser in his choices both on and off the field. But not just him. Any sport, any sales team, any CEO who's looking to take his company to the next level, we're the edge. Plain and simple, we are the edge that will make the difference between being average and being extraordinary.
Wow. That you talk about, hey, give me a closer. We are the edge. Put that on a t-shirt. Usually I'm like, if you don't buy from me, you're not my family. I'm never talking to you ever again. But that was very, very well put. And I love, hey, we want to do our part and support. So as you may know, here at the ME Studios, we love to give and we love to kind of collaborate. And here's what we're going to do, Coach and John, if you give us permission, we're going to allocate 25 comped vacations of 2 nights, 3 days to either the Caribbean or Mexico, all inclusive. That means food, that means beverage, and that means lodging. This is not a timeshare. There is no presentation. I'm not getting a commission out of this, and neither are these two individuals that you are hearing from today. And the reason we want to do this is we want to incentivize good behavior. See, and I know you want to and need to do this for yourself. And sometimes you're like, I'm not sure the timing is right. Well, how about a trip that's worth $1,800? Does that tickle your brain a little bit to consider taking care of your brain? So we're going to put it in the actual universe and put it in the hands of these two individuals. For the next 25 individuals, hear me clearly, the next 25 individuals who go and at the very least opt in to get a complimentary consultation, you have a 2-night, 3-day trip to either Caribbean or Mexico. Remember, it covers your food, it covers your beverage, only if you drink responsibly, and of course your lodging. The only thing that you will have to take care of is your taxes, and of course any transportation that's on you. It's worth $1,800. It will be 100% comped for you, and we're doing this because we believe so much in these two individuals and in combatbraintraining.com. How does that sound, fellas? Is that okay? Can we do that?
That's great.
Can we go with them?
I don't know if they graduate, and I don't know if anybody can handle you shirtless. I mean, I've seen those muscles before. You'll intimidate them. But yeah, we believe so much in what you do. And Coach, you know me, asking you shall receive. You said push this thing out. Here we are. We just begun. We're gonna push it out to the whole world, and we'll make sure our email list also has this information. And at least watch this video, get educated, go to the website, choose a complimentary consultation, talk to these two individuals, and then make an educated decision for yourself. As we are coming towards the end of this session, we'll start with you, Coach. Any final remarks? And the reason I'm starting with you, Coach, just because you started with a bang, and I want you to finish with a bang. Make it so hard for John to follow you on that. Go ahead, Coach. What you got?
Well, I've run into a lot of things in my life. I've commanded infantry soldiers. I talk about this all the time. I was raised on a farm, shoveling pig manure, and I've had dinner with the governor 3 times, and I've shaken hands with the president. So I can handle pretty much anything in between. This is the most phenomenal program I have become introduced to or become a part of in my entire life. And I am so blessed to be a part of it and make a change in so many different ways. Now, I want to be part of changing your life. And all you got to do is reach out to us, either John or myself, and we'll put together a program that will not just knock your socks off. It will make everyone else turn and look and say, wow, that girl is something else. And I go back to, we want to be your edge. We want to help take you to places that you've never been before.
Go ahead and follow that, John.
That's tough to follow, right? So, but he's absolutely right. I mean, again, I've done so many different things in my life. I'll maybe go on forever. This really is the most meaningful thing I've ever done. I think we're all put on earth to help people. We all have unique ways to do that. And this is our way. This is a way that there's nothing more rewarding than working with some of our clients, especially the ones with different types of brain trauma and so on, getting their lives back and their lives taking a trajectory differently than they would have beforehand. So absolutely visit the website, reach out to us on the contact us form. If you feel so inclined, you can take the video course to get yourself and your family started. We've even had teachers do it with their classes. And we can also, if you're interested in becoming certified. So we certify people to add this to their existing coaching programs, or certified psychiatrists, so they can add it to what they're doing already, or you can also become a full-time trainer. So lots of ways that we want to help you help other people.
One other way, John, that we forgot to mention, we'll be putting this link on the website very soon, and that is Hack Your Habits in 30 minutes or less. If you go to the website, you'll see a link on there. It's not there today, but hopefully she'll get that added this week. That we can take what is quit smoking 30 minutes. You want to exercise more? In less than 30 minutes, we can have you in the habit. And to understand that, you really have to read the book. So,
including what you said before, Ali, we've helped people not text when they're driving. That's a habit that we've helped create.
You know what's funny? As many know, Sebastian, our 7.5-year-old, is always in the studio while we're recording, and he takes notes, and he slips these notes to me. So his top bullet point, and he turned it into a question. He said, "How do you get rid of bad habits?" So if I can get a bonus question out of you, this is directly from Sebastian. How do you get rid of bad habits? What is your answer for my little 7.5-year-old?
Well, the short answer is we use the same process that we use for the brain, right? Our habits are, if we engage all the parts of the body that we would use to do in our habit and repeat that.
The one thing we do appears John might be frozen for a second. The one thing that we do and we stress, the very first thing as part of Hack Your Habits is your why. Why do you want to interrupt this habit?
Right.
What's your purpose, and how can we support that? Once you know your why, then everything else we can put into a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps and teach you how to do that. But
and download the book.
Download the book. That's the other
one.
one.
Shortest book you've ever read. It'll be the shortest book you've ever read, but it will be the most powerful.
Yeah, I love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've been infotained. That is information with entertainment. Please make sure that you go to the description so you can connect in the different social media assets. And of course, make sure that you visit combatbraintraining.com if you want to get that vacation. It is truly worth $1,800. It's 2 nights, 3 days. You can get away on a quick Friday, come back Sunday, and no one even knew that you got away. So you don't even need a full vacation for it. You can take advantage and have a good time. Want to give a huge shout out to John Kennedy, to Tim Stewart, aka Coach Papa, for taking the time and the initiative to educate all of us, and congratulate you for all the impact that you've created thus far and you continue to create. Huge thank you and shout out to Rich Tomes, our Chief Production Officer, who's making all the magic happen that you are seeing in your screen or you're hearing on your ears. Of course, a huge shout out and thank you to Claudia Maritza for making sure that there's food coming on the table every single day. You run it, you make it look real good. And of course, Sebastian Ali, our Chief Chores Officer, who is in the building, making sure that I am always doing what I need to do. And until next time, have a blessed day, everybody.
Thanks, Ali. Take care. Thank you.
Your brain is your most powerful tool. Combat Brain Training is a revolutionary system designed to sharpen your focus, enhance memory, and boost mental agility for everyone in the family. Using cutting-edge neuroplasticity techniques, our program rewires your brain. Whether you're a student, a professional, or simply want to think faster and perform better, Combat Brain Training gives you the edge. Whether you're in the military, an athlete, a business leader, or simply want to think faster and perform better, unlock your brain power. Join now and bring out the best in your family. Visit combatbraintraining.com and start today.